Hi, it's Jenny with Jenny's Wreath Boutique, and in this video, I'm going to be answering all of your questions. So if you are excited for that, hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that yet. All right, I put a little question box on my Instagram stories, seeing if you guys had any questions for me, and then also I made a community post here on my channel asking if you had any questions for me for this Q&A. So I'm going to go through a bunch of those, probably not every single one of them because there were a lot, but I'm going to go through a bunch of those and answer as many as I can. So let's just get started. The first question is, my grapevine bases have all fat twigs and no thin. How do I glue into ones like that? Yes, I've noticed, especially at Michael's, they got a bunch of grapevines that are really thick and they're just different looking than normal. And when I have grapevine bases like that, I usually will adjust the wreath I'm making. But if all of your grapevines are like that, you kind of have to deal with it. So in those cases, I would be using floral wire in addition to hot glue if you can't get a good connection, lots of surface area on your stems. So if they're loose, you can add some glue and hold it there until the piece is stuck there. Or you can also add some floral wire, and yes, that will be more time consuming and it will be a pain, but you know, you just gotta deal with what you're given. Another thing you could do is, a lot of times in those grapevines where there are only big twigs, there's still room to put your stems and things. So just find places where you can put your stems and you'll just have to hold the glue there longer. And I know the glue I use does take a little bit longer. It's linked in the description, my favorite glue. It does take a little bit longer to dry, but it has such a strong hold that it's worth it to me. So you'll either have to hold things in place and or wire them in. Although after just saying that, I did just recently get a large shipment of grapevines from Michael's. I used the Pro Packs and they were all wonderful and they were the way they used to be, and I was so excited. So hopefully you won't have to deal with those thick vine grapevines for much longer. Oh, that question was from Happy Doors 70. Samantha Gerald asks, have you always offered free shipping? Do you suggest doing so if we are new on Etsy? I have not always offered free shipping, as if you've ever shipped a wreath, you know by now that it's expensive. When I first started my Etsy shop, Etsy wasn't pushing for free shipping, so I didn't offer free shipping, and whatever your shipping charges were, it was not factored into your fees, your Etsy fees. Your processing fees still don't include shipping, but your Etsy fees do now, but they didn't used to. So I started off just having a flat rate shipping, and then I moved on to calculated shipping, which is great because then they would get the exact amount that it was going to cost me. That's what they would be charged. So that was really nice. But I noticed there were a lot of abandoned carts. People would be excited. They'd get this wreath, they'd put it in their cart, and they'd see how much shipping was costing, and they would just abandon the cart. So once Etsy started pushing free shipping a couple years ago, I decided to try it out. And at the same time, they decided that even if you have separate shipping fees, that was going to be included in your fees as well. So I figured, well, if they're gonna charge me fees, whether I put it into my price or not, I might as well add the shipping cost into my price and then offer free shipping. And I've noticed since doing that, that my abandoned carts are lower. I have less abandoned carts than when I had calculated shipping. I just think a lot of people don't realize how expensive shipping is. So that's what I do. If you're new to Etsy, I would suggest doing free shipping because every little bit helps, especially in the beginning. You really want to have an edge above your competitors or have some kind of thing that will make you stand out. And if you're new, it's already hard to get those first sales because people want to buy from a shop that has sales already. But if you offer free shipping, it kind of gives that perceived value of the item being worth more. And then they're like, ooh, wow, free shipping bonus. So it's kind of a psychological thing, but I would recommend free shipping if you can, or maybe split it, do like a fixed cost shipping, like maybe $10, and then add the rest into the cost of your item. If you are selling lower priced items, or maybe they're not wreaths, maybe they're something else and they don't cost a lot to ship, you could have a free shipping guarantee in your shop. So if you spend $35 or more, then the free shipping will kick in. So if you have lower priced items, that can be nice too, and it can encourage people to put more in their cart and check out with more because then they get the free shipping. So that's another thing you consider. So it really depends on your shop and what niche you're in, whether I would recommend free shipping or not. But for me, I do. I didn't start out that way. Eyeless Deco, I hope I pronounced that right. Etsy advertisements, their own, that costs 12%. Can you stop it? So Etsy's offsite ads is what she's referring to. And if they're costing 12%, that means you are in the over $10,000 category. And no, you can't stop it. So Etsy does offsite ads. And if you make less revenue than $10,000 in your Etsy shop per year, then you can opt out of offsite ads. And if you also make under that amount, they will cost 15%. So you can opt out if you want. But if you make over that threshold of income, you cannot opt out, unfortunately. So I know a lot of people are worried about that, but it hasn't really made a difference in my shop. I mean, I get a few every month, but it's nothing to worry about. And it is what it is. Don't stress over things you can't control. Focus on the things you can control and don't get discouraged. So I hope that helps. Copper and Birch asks, do you make a list of every product you have used for every wreath? No, I do not. I am not that organized. I make mental lists and I have pictures of everything I have, but I don't really make a list of everything I use for every wreath. If you're in my VIP group, I do make supply lists and SKU numbers and all that for every item I've used, and I list substitutions I can use, but that's for if you're in my VIP group. But me personally, I don't. I'm one person. I don't think I would have time to do all that. My stuff always changes and I know what I got. I have receipts for everything. It's all online. I can always look if I can't remember exactly what I got. It's there somewhere and I can find it and reorder. So that's not a problem. But no, I don't. Shaw 37. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. How do you know how much to charge for a wreath? This is a great question. I actually have a whole video on how to price your wreaths to sell. And it's great. I go into way more detail in that video. I also have a more detailed video in my VIP group, but I will say what I do is I take my cost of my materials, I multiply that by 2 or 3, depending on a bunch of factors, like if I got a good deal, how expensive everything is. So I get that basic idea of how much I spent, and then I multiply that by 2 or 3. And things that will factor into that multiplication are, like I said, how expensive the items are in the first place, how good my designs are. Honestly, like if you've been doing it a lot longer, you can charge more if the wreath just looks better. Once you have that part done, that's not your price. You're going to go on Etsy, look at other things that are similar to that and see what they're priced at. So you can see if what your number that you came up with is in the same range as those items. You don't want to be higher, like way higher than everything, and you don't want to be at the lower end either. You don't want to compete on low prices because the winner loses because they don't make any profit. So you want to be toward the higher end. It really depends on the quality of your designs. So see how your item compares to those and their prices, and then you'll add in your shipping costs if you want to offer free shipping, and then you want to add in your fees on top of that. So you do your formula and then you compare it to what else is out there, add in your shipping and the fees, and then don't use a random number. So that gives you like your overall basis. Let's say you add all that stuff up with the free shipping and everything, and then your number is $83.74. Don't have $83.74 be your price. At that point, I would do like $87.99 or something like that. Have it be a number, or $84.99, something like that. Something that makes more sense. And yeah, that's what I would do for pricing. But if you really want more detail on that, go watch that video. Tending Snowdrops asks how to get over being intimidated by taxes, like doing things right at the start to avoid stress. Great question. Well, just to let you know, I don't know if that feeling will ever go away. Just to preface this, and there are some other questions about taxes too. Actually, there was a lot of questions about taxes, and I need to say this, I'm not an accountant. This is for entertainment purposes only. I will tell you what I do. I'm not an accountant. I have to say that. So what I do is I use QuickBooks Self-Employed. It's very basic. You can connect it to Etsy now, and I just have all my expenses separated. I have a bank account for my business, so everything's from there. I have one card that I use for business, so everything's really simple. And then I can put it in the categories when it goes into my QuickBooks Self-Employed, so it's really easy, keeps track of everything. And then also Etsy is great because they keep track of all the sales tax. In fact, they remit all the sales tax for states and everything. In most states, there are a few that you still have to do your own sales tax remitting, but for the most part, Etsy will take care of that for you, which is so nice. And then they keep track of all your shipping and all your fees and all those deductions, which is great. So you have all your materials costs, they have all your shipping, unless you use other offsite things, which I also use Parcel Path now. I will leave a link for that in the description, by the way, because it's great. I love it for my larger wreaths. Anyway, I still use FedEx through Etsy, but I also use UPS ground, but I buy those on Parcel Path because sometimes it's cheaper than FedEx. That was a total tangent, but just to let you know, I will link that in the description. So yeah, just keep track of everything, and that will help a lot. But I highly recommend getting an accountant. A few years ago, I started using a CPA. I asked him all the questions. He was amazing, made me feel so much more comfortable, really helped me with all the deductions I was able to do, and then set my business up right. I keep track of everything. I put all the things in the categories that he and I had discussed. I give those numbers to him, and all my 1099 from Etsy and my stuff from other places and my husband's stuff, and I give that all to him, and I give him all my expenses, and he takes care of the rest. It is so nice. Like, I still do a lot of the work, but just having it taken care of, knowing that it's done right, takes so much stress off of me. And I think I get more money back. It's so worth it. It's expensive, but it's so worth it. Anyway, I hope that helps. That might not be what you want to hear, but I highly recommend getting a CPA, at least to do your end of the year stuff. And the great thing is every January I get a nice packet in the mail with all last year's numbers and categories, and all I have to do is fill in the blanks. It's so nice. I fill in the blanks and send in all my extra papers, and I give it back to him. It is amazing. I love it. And he calculates all of my quarterly taxes that I need to pay, and I have vouchers set up for that, and I just have to pay it online once a quarter. It's amazing. So I highly recommend that. It is so worth it. So yeah, that helps me avoid stress. Tending Snowdrops also says, looking forward to joining VIP when it opens. Yay! Can you share what month it will open yet? Yes, I actually just set the dates and emailed the wait list. So if you're on the wait list, check your inbox if you haven't seen it yet. If you still haven't seen it after checking your inbox, check your junk mail. But the dates are listed there, and if you click on the link below where it says join the VIP group, the updated date should be there on that page, but it's the very end of February, very beginning of March this year. If you're watching this later, that doesn't apply to you, but you can still click that link and see when it opens next, because it only opens a couple times publicly. So if you want to get in, check those dates so you don't miss it. All right. I appreciate you for asking that. All right, CB says, do you have a stock of greenery and flowers for every season, or do you start buying them when they become available in stores and warehouses for certain seasons? Well, what I do is I do have a stock for every season, but I also intermingle. I use a lot of things for many different seasons, especially spring and summer and even winter. And I also have greenery that I use year round, so I try to keep that in stock year round. That's a great way to keep my business really simple because I'm one person, except my husband who edits my videos. Hi. I have things for every season, and if they're like really seasonal, I will put them in bins and put them away because I only have so much space in my wreath room, but I do keep greenery out year round, and I try to keep that available to me at all times. So I actually do both. I buy from year-end sales at retail stores and wholesale when I can. And I also buy wholesale very far in advance. Like right now there are Christmas and fall sales going on. I also buy some spring. I don't buy everything a year in advance. This is all new for me. But between having the end of season sales ready for the next year and buying stuff wholesale, although last year that didn't help me that much because some things that I'd ordered early in the spring didn't arrive till after the fall or Christmas season when I needed them. So normally they should arrive early. So yes, I do get things well in advance, so I have stuff ready to go. But at the same time, when the seasonal stuff comes out, I also buy more then. So I do both. DKeppy says, I would love to see a video of the lamb's ear wreath. I have one in my Etsy shop, and I think someone actually responded to you and said that. So that is a tutorial I have for sale in my Etsy shop, and it's my most popular tutorial, and people who have done it have been like, oh, that's how you do it. I know, that's one. It's also my VIP group, or if you're not in there and you just want the one tutorial, that is one I have for sale in my Etsy shop. So it's worth it though. It's a good one. If you know how to make that wreath, you can make so many wreaths from that base. It's amazing. All right, Devin says, I would love to hear some organization tips for having a shop and small business. What are tips for keeping it all organized? I'll take this question in steps. That's a lot. Do you have certain days of the week you do an inventory of what you need? No. I have days where I'm busier than others, and the days where I'm not as busy and I'm caught up. Sometimes I can't get caught up for months, but I try to. And then I just I try to keep things out where I can see them. But when I notice something that I use all the time is getting low, or if a wreath is really popular and I notice those things are getting low, I will try and order new ones. And as for my boxes, let's say, how do you know you're not going to run out of shipping boxes? I have my shipping boxes stacked by size on a big shelf in my garage, so I can just see when I'm running low. So I'll just order when I think I'm going to need them coming up soon. And I try to order 3 months worth at a time. That's about all I can fit. I'd love to order 6 months or a year's worth, but I just don't have the space for that. Same goes for all of my supplies. I try to order about 3 months worth, but I can't always do that because of supply issues or whatever. So that's what I try to do. And how do I keep track of my materials costs? I just save all my receipts and it goes into my QuickBook Self-Employed app. Just some simple things to help me be organized and successful. So one thing I do that I think helps me a lot, and you've probably noticed this, but looking at my wall, you might not think this, but I like to keep things really simple. I don't make anything complicated. That just stresses me out if things are complicated. I like to keep things simple and easy because it sells well. It's easy to keep track of. Sometimes I like to get fancier. I did buy a lot more things over the last year, and so my house is starting to get taken over, but I just like to keep things simple, and that helps me stay organized. Etsy helps me stay organized. That's one of the reasons I love Etsy, is they keep track of everything, and it's getting better. Like their finance stuff, they keep it so organized. It's great. All my shipping expenses are really easy. I basically only buy boxes from 1 or 2 places, Uline and Amazon. So that's easy. And when I'm buying a lot at once, it's only one receipt I need to enter in. So I try to buy large amounts of things at once instead of a little shopping trip here, a little shopping trip there, because that takes so much time and energy and gas and all those things. So I try to keep it simple that way. So I would just say keep it simple and don't get too complicated. Jasmine has a question about dried floral wreaths. In your experience, does it cost more to buy dry flowers than faux flowers? And do you have places you recommend buying dry flowers? I haven't really bought a lot. I bought some from Hobby Lobby. I have a video. I made a dried floral hoop wreath, that video, and that was only $10. It was pretty cheap. Really observed a big difference. I did run out of faux bunny tails, and I bought some dried ones off Amazon. I'll see if I can find those, but I haven't used a ton of dried florals because they're so breakable. But they're so popular though, so I might get more into that this year, but I don't really have a big supplier for that. I bought some at Hobby Lobby and Amazon, but I'm sure there are better suppliers out there for that. Michelle says, what do you do with wreaths you've made that have never sold? Well, I haven't made that many that haven't sold. If you watched my video on how I started, I kind of mentioned this. I go much deeper in my VIP group, but what I did when I started so I wouldn't waste things is I made a wreath without gluing it in, took pictures, took it apart, made another wreath that's a little different using very similar supplies. So I didn't have to buy a ton of supplies, but I could make many different wreaths using the same one. Once it's sold, that's when I would glue it together. So even though I might have had 10 wreaths listed, I didn't have 10 wreaths made. Now I'm at the point, and that's kind of tricky now with all the supply issues going on. Ugh, you might not be able to find the materials once you've sold the wreath and can reinvest back in your business. It might be harder to find those materials to make more. But that's how I started. So I didn't have any wreaths that I didn't sell, that I had to do anything. So I've had like maybe one or two I can think of that I haven't sold that I took apart. I got frustrated. I didn't want to store them anymore, so I took them apart. I haven't really had that happen. So if you've had a wreath for a long time that hasn't sold, just take it apart and make something new with the same materials. Since I make all my wreaths to order, I don't really have that problem. I make the first one, and I do, of course, a lot of one-of-a-kind tutorials here on YouTube, but those all have sold. They usually sell eventually. I usually don't have to keep them too long, so it's nice because I don't have a ton of wreaths around. Along these lines, Zoe asks, where do you store all the wreaths that you make until they're sold? I just hang them on my wall in my wreath room. Sometimes my kids want them on their door, so I'll put one on their door till it sells, but since I really only make the first wreath to take pictures of, now I'm at the point where I actually do glue them in for the most part. I will just put it on my wreath room wall until it sells, and I don't have a ton. Yeah, and then the next ones I just make to order. And yeah, it keeps things really simple so I don't use up a lot of space. I just have my materials, as you can see, and yeah, I make them to order. Heather says, what do you do if you can't take good pictures of your wreaths right away? Do you list them anyway, or wait until you can get outside to take pictures? For example, if you made a few wreaths during a snowstorm but can't get out to take pics. And I noticed someone replied, take pictures of them standing in the snow. Yes! But I totally understand if it's like actively snowing, you don't want to get snow all over your wreath. Yeah, definitely take advantage of the snow. I go out in all weather to take pictures because it's just so much better to have outside lighting. And sometimes I will wait a couple days until I can get a good picture. But a few years ago when it was just really bad weather for a long time in a row, what I did was I took my background that I had at the time. I don't have it anymore, so I just take wreaths on the outside of my shed right now. But what I did was I took that piece and put it right next to my French doors that I have in the back, so there's lots of natural light that came in. But it wasn't like in the direct sunlight, but just right there, so it was really bright. And that's what I've done before. But you want to make sure your background looks nice and consistent. I prefer not to have, I see a lot of people put them on like their hardwood floor, which is okay. I would just really try to get them outside. I think it's okay to wait a few days and have great pictures instead of rushing it if you can. But yeah, get those pictures in the snow. Those are the best. Rachel says, are there any avenues besides Etsy you recommend exploring to sell wreaths? I love Etsy. It's my favorite. I did a video. I know I keep talking about videos. I did a video on Etsy versus Shopify, and this is all my opinion. I think Etsy is the easiest to get started on. They have the lowest fees. I know a lot of people complain about the fees, but for a marketplace, it's like great fees. And they already have built-in traffic, so someone who is just starting out, doesn't have a ton of like social media following and all that, can really be successful on Etsy. So I just love it. It's simple, it's easy, it has like hardly any startup fees, really none, except like the 20-cent listing fee, but I'll leave a link to get 40 free listings if you're just starting your shop. I have that linked in a couple other videos, but that'll be in the description. Lots of links in the description in this video, so since I'm talking about a lot of things. But yeah, there's like no startup cost, which is great. Yeah, I just love Etsy. And they bring in so much of their own traffic. It's simple. So that's why I do it. It's my favorite. It will probably always be my favorite. If you want to do your own website, you totally can. You can do something like that. I direct all of my attention, all of my own marketing to my Etsy shop. You can totally do that. I just noticed in my stats, even after I've been on for a long time, the vast majority of my traffic and sales comes from Etsy's organic searches. Eventually, if you get bigger, absolutely go on Shopify, your own website, anything like that would be great. And since I teach Etsy, I think it's important that I stay on the platform and know what's going on. So I just like it. It's really simple. But watch that video. I think that'll be helpful, and that really kind of breaks a lot of the costs down and everything. Sarah, great question. What do you know about Etsy payment reserve? She's talking about she just got her first sales, but now her funds are in a payment reserve. I also want to mention, you said also Etsy forums are just so negative. I try to stay out. I applaud you for that. I think it's so smart to stay out of those because people are so negative. They love to complain. I also stay out of those. The payment reserve, I haven't had any, but there have been some people in my group that have, especially for new shops. Etsy is really trying to make sure people don't get ripped off, basically. They're trying to avoid scam sites, so Either if you're a new site, you'll probably have a higher chance of having this happen. If you're new, if your shop is new, basically if you've broken some of Etsy's rules, they might put your funds in a reserve as well. All you have to do is get your items, ship them out with tracking. If your items are in a reserve, please have tracking because they need proof that you sent it. And once you've sent it with tracking, you'll get your money. And Etsy sees that, okay, you are shipping your items out, then they'll relax that and you won't have the payment reserve anymore. At least that's what I've heard. And Karen asks, can anyone order wholesale supplies? Anyone with a tax ID or business license, sales permit. So if you want to order wholesale, you have to prove that you're able to charge sales tax on what you're selling, because they're not going to charge you sales tax, but that sales tax has to get paid. So if you're not charging sales tax because you have your sales permit from your business, then no. Or if you're just doing this as a hobby and you don't have a business and you're not charging sales tax, no, you cannot buy wholesale. But if you do, then you can. And every state is different for how to get some call it a business license, tax permit, or tax ID, whatever that is. You get it from your Secretary of State, I believe. And yeah, so you need one of those to order wholesale. All right, I think that's it for questions in this video. If you liked it, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that yet. If I talked about anything in this video, the links are in the description. Don't forget to check those out, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.